When thinking about the most influential JRPGs of all time, a few examples come to mind. Square's Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, and Chrono Trigger are heralded for their takes on story, gameplay, and worlds. Atlus's Shin Megami Tensei and Persona series for difficulty and incredible visuals, and Pokemon, of course, can't forget that, being the most successful game. With the biggest praise I can give the game today is how it broadens the appeal to everyone, acting as a great starting point for getting into the genre. However, one title is at times overlooked by many or overshadowed by its later predecessors of sorts, that being Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars, now simply known as Super Mario RPG with its recent remake. It's an incredible game that I remember playing on the Wii U Virtual Console back in the day, and finally got to playing the remake over the Christmas holidays, and it's a game that I really just wanted to talk about. So why is Super Mario RPG regarded so highly so many console generations later that it even warranted Nintendo to remake it? Well, I think a lot of it comes down to the game's charm. Super Mario RPG has got a very distinct sense of style to it. As it's the first RPG centered around a famous red guy, it needed to adopt a presence to make it stand out from the other mainline platformers. It characterized lots of characters in ways you wouldn't expect. Peach is no longer this damsel in distress, but a rebellious and strong leader of the Mushroom Kingdom. Bowser is playable for the first time and acts high and mighty, whilst showing weakness in the funniest ways possible. And as for Mario himself, we get these incredibly funny moments of him just jumping around all over the place and doing caricatures and doing funny animations to describe certain scenarios. And that's just some of the main cast, as this charm also stretches to the many NPCs of the game, from your regular NPCs that you'll only interact with once, to enemies that have so much personality to them. One of the early areas in the game, the Mushroom Kingdom, has so many NPCs that are just so fun to interact with. We have the Jumping Kid, the NPC with a bazooka, to name a few, and the characters you meet get even wackier as the game progresses. It's not just that, but the scenarios Mario and the gang find themselves in get wilder. We have Speardovich and kidnapping an entire village, who uses tickling as blackmail towards Mario, the Axem Rangers being a very funny and obvious Power Rangers reference, the chefs that get worked up over their own work making a monster cake, and then one of the best ones being the entire booster plotline. Charm isn't just seen in the writing, but also in its world design, from Tadpole Pond with its playable Toadofsky section, Yoester Island where Yoshis get to race and constantly hate on Boshi for always winning the races, Moleville and Monster Town where ex-monsters go to live freely and turn their lives around. Although the game is far shorter than any other RPG out there, each area, NPC, and interaction are so colorful that they're all so easy to remember and enjoy. This charm also stretches to the music of the game. Yoko Shimomura, who created the original score way back then, came back for the remake to rearrange the tracks to bring them up to modern sound quality, and it's just as good, if not better, than the original game's OST. I'm a big fan of the Super Mario RPG soundtrack, but even if it might not be my favorite soundtrack from a game, it's still incredible at how varied all the songs can be from one another. From the intro song being so fun and housing childlike nostalgia in it, to Mushroom Kingdom with its blend of cymbals and trumpets sounding so majestic, to the incredible percussion in battling against armored monsters, to the haunting Va Valentina area with the laughs. However, my three favorite tracks are Let's Take the Midas River, which has a fun sounding banjo in the background and this carefree vibe to it, the song that plays when we are first introduced to the Axem Rangers. I do like songs that are kinda electro influenced, and this song has got it with its consistent kicks, rides, and snares, sampling the iconic underground theme from Mario, and that's another thing the game does incredibly well, making callbacks to other Mario games. At the top of my head right now, I can think of the Options theme that got used, but there are other familiar sounds that are used to create a strong sense of familiarity, but with a new coat of paint and new sounds that simultaneously make this adventure feel brand new. My favorite song though is technically a spoiler, but it's against the Super Boss. The reason why I love that song so much is also because it's originally from another Square Enix game, being Final Fantasy IV. It's a great rearrangement, just as good as the original and the Final Fantasy XIV version composed by Masayoshi Soken. This soundtrack just sounds so whimsical, and I'm all for it. But since this is a game we're talking about, I think I do have to mention the different styles of gameplay that you'll be seeing in Super Mario RPG. As the title says, Super Mario RPG is an RPG, which naturally suggests that turn-based combat will be the main form of gameplay. Turn-based combat is a combat style that I really appreciate due to the strategic nature of it, giving you time to think about what is the best course of action forward, and although I do have to say the game is typically on the easier side of RPGs, with only a handful of battles requiring me to actually put in extra strategy. However, despite the game being close to a cakewalk, the combat is engaging for one reason, that being timed hits. When I played the original, I was surprised by this this inclusion as it's revolutionary in a game that is more passive from the player's perspective. Timed hits can either keep combos going, deal more damage, negate some enemy damage, and if perfectly timed, can completely block enemy attacks. Although it might be more common nowadays, for its time and what it brought to the table, it's genius. The remake does, however, further the concept by adding a percentage wheel where after enough timed hits, you can unleash a super move depending on party members in the battle with some incredibly well animated cutscenes. Why, yes, it does make the game easier, it can also be a vital tool when the tougher fights come into play. But apart from the combat, we've got your usual overworld shenanigans. In a way, this game has some arguments to be called the first 3D Mario game, as there are quite a few overworld jumps and puzzles that you must do, and lots of minigames that are very fun to play through, climbing the Paratrooper Cliff, Booster Hill, to going down the Midas River, and even the Boshi Race. All these minigames are very easy to get a grasp of, but they are just so much fun to play. Exploring the overworld has its fair share of secrets, with the best items in the game being found from the overworld, like the lazy shells, leading to some fun tangents you can find yourself on as you progress the main story. As for the story, it's the first Mario RPG, meaning it's more on the simpler side of things. A giant sword comes down from the sky and crashes into the castle, forcing you to collect stars in order to find a way back to take down Smithy. Along the way, you meet the colorful characters and their charming towns with their own quirks, including the two brand new characters originally created by Square, Mallow and Gino, who are very entertaining in their own rights. Although this story doesn't have any deep meaning, it's a Mario game. It doesn't need that when the gameplay is so great. But like any other Mario game, I do find the pacing of the game to be top tier. For me, I always liked that Mario games never overstay their welcome. They always manage to be the exact right length that they need to be and end when the time comes. And for this to be an RPG, being short means that there isn't that much time to enjoy the characters, but this pacing just makes it work so well. And as you reach the end of the game, the remake adds some extra content to keep you playing for just a few more hours. First, you can complete the different challenges across the world, including some side bosses you may have missed and trying to master all the minigames, but the biggest addition comes in the form of the boss rematches. This is where the biggest challenges of Super Mario RPG comes into play and where the combat shows off its creativity in the turn-based combat sandbox. These battles have some really great gimmicks to them, like making enemies turn on themselves, battle against an invisible clock, and a 1v1 fight that encourages you to master the timed hit system. There are other gimmicks that the game implements, but it just goes to show what they can do with turn-based combat. I would have wished for there to be a greater challenge in the game, but what the post-game manages to do in such little time is very good. If this team gets to make a new Mario RPG, be it in the Paper series or reviving the Mario and Luigi series, we can expect great things to come. But again, like my favorite track in the game, my favorite fight in the game is the rematch battle against the base game's super boss. Spoilers, but Culex becomes fully 3D, and this fight was a nightmare. After numerous attempts, I finally managed to beat him in a run that lasted 40 minutes. Yes, I actually timed it. After switching my party multiple times, having brought the right items for the battle, using the right attacks, I managed to outlast Culex. This battle is going to go down as one of my favorite boss battles ever, and to add icing on top, going to the monster list and seeing the entry for Culex, with the devs having written a nice thank you for playing this far, I was glad I finally got to play this game once more. As much as I love Super Mario RPG, it's not amongst my favorite RPGs. It might crack the top 10, but for me, that's perfectly fine because the time I spent with this game was well spent. It's rocket-paced pacing that constantly keeps the game showing you new things, with great gimmicks, minigames, and incredible soundtrack makes this game an easy recommendation for both veterans and newcomers of the RPG genre. But above all, this game has a charm to it that you won't find in any other RPG. It's self-aware, funny, and nostalgic in a way, even if you haven't played the original. It's a great game that doesn't overstay its welcome, and I honestly have nothing else to say than I highly recommend you give this game just some of your spare time. And with that, welcome to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. It really means a lot. If you enjoyed it or didn't enjoy the video, a like and a dislike both help the channel out and letting me know what works or doesn't work. As always, I would like to hear your thoughts on the game and what you liked or didn't like about Super Mario RPG down below in the comments. And if you want to see more from me, subscribe comes a long way in helping the channel out. That's all for me. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a good rest of your day, night, and week. And with that, Storm out.